Hey everyone, in this video we're going to talk about networking and the different options that are available to us for connecting to our robot. This is all going to lead up to driving the robot. If you want to follow along over the next few videos, it would help if you have your robot fully assembled, all the electronics mounted, everything wired together, and remember to double check your wiring, especially the power wiring. Also, you're going to need to have your micro SD card with the operating system burned onto it and installed into the Raspberry Pi. All of these topics were covered in previous videos. All right, let's look at some of the networking options that we have available to us. So we have our robot and we have our laptop, and we want them to be able to communicate with each other. For the next while, you're going to be doing your development in your home. So we all have wireless routers in our home, and we're familiar with how we connect with a router. So let's say we have our router in our home. We're all familiar with how this works. We can sign into the router or connect to our wireless network from our laptop, and if we can get the robot to do the same, we can have a connection between our laptop and our robot through the router. You can probably see the difficulty here though. How do we get the Wi-Fi information for our home network into our robot? In order to do that on the laptop, right, you'd search through the list of available networks and you type in a password. We don't have a good enough user interface on the robot to allow for that to happen. So we need a way to set the robot's networking up initially. So there's another, let's just label this diagram a little bit more. When we have the robot and the laptop communicating through a router, the router is acting as an access point, and the robot and the laptop are acting as a Wi-Fi client. So all of the robots come with a access point mode built into them. So we can switch the robot into access point mode and have a direct connection set up between the robot and the laptop. So the laptop in this case is still acting as a client, but the robot's going to broadcast a network name. So just like you would connect to your home router by searching, bringing up the list of available networks and clicking on the one that you know is your home network. When we put the robot into access point mode, it's going to advertise a network name. In this case, the default one is RoboAP underscore, then there's going to be a 4-digit alphanumeric. It's that's the last 4 digits of the robot's MAC address. So there might be like AB12. So from your laptop, you can search for that network and make a connection to it. And now we have a direct connection between the laptop and the robot. So why is this useful? Well, once we have that direct connection, we're going to use a networking tool called SSH, which stands for Secure Shell. Secure Shell is a way of remotely logging into another computer through in this case, we're going to use like a command line application. So we're going to remotely log in from our laptop over to the robot, and we're going to use some command line tools to set up the networking. So we're going to set up, for example, your home router's password and name, and then when we turn the robot back into client mode, it will know how to connect to your router. So putting the robot into access point mode is useful for this initial setup. It's also useful though for applications where you don't have a central router available. So this could be, for example, you want to take your robot to the park where there's no central router, or say you want to just take it out to a remote location. You want to go do something out in the forest or out in the desert with it. There's no central router. As long as you're within range of your laptop, you can put your robot in access point mode and have a direct communication. The disadvantage to operating your robot in access point mode all the time is that the client laptop has to switch its radio, its Wi-Fi radio, to communicate with the robot, and it can't communicate with the router. So if you were at home, for example, and you had your robot in access point mode, your laptop, when it's connected to the robot in that mode, can't connect to the home router. So you would lose internet on your laptop when you're in that mode. So it's usually, you don't want to be running in this mode all the time, but it's useful for initial setup and for places where there's just no internet or central router. All right, so in the next few videos, now that you got a bit of a bigger picture of how a couple of these networking options, in the next few videos we're going to power on the robot, and I'm going to lead you through the steps of entering into access point mode, how we log into the robot, how we set up the networking so that we can connect to our home router.